While my ex-boss was probably sleeping peacefully, thinking he'd gotten away with stealing my bonus, I was wide awake executing the most expensive mistake of his career. By sunrise, their golden goose was gone forever. The method I used? Something they taught me themselves. Sarah Martinez had just pulled off something incredible. $9 million. That's what the Henderson Group contract was worth, and she'd landed it after 6 grueling months of presentations, late-night calls, and countless coffee meetings. The client loved her approach. Her boss loved the numbers. Everyone seemed pretty thrilled about the whole thing. Well, everyone except when it came time to actually recognize who made it happen. December rolled around like it always does, bringing with it that familiar buzz of year-end reviews and bonus discussions. Sarah watched as colleagues gathered in small groups, whispering about their expected payouts. The company had its best year ever, thanks largely to that massive Henderson deal. Makes sense that the person who secured it would be first in line for recognition, right? Wrong. The bonus meeting happened on a Tuesday. Sarah wasn't invited. She found out later that her name barely came up, and when it did, management quickly moved on to other topics. Meanwhile, Tom from accounting got a hefty bonus for supporting the Henderson transition. Jennifer from marketing received recognition for brand alignment during client onboarding. Even the intern who helped format some PowerPoint slides got a gift card. But the woman who actually convinced Henderson Group to sign? Crickets. Here's the kicker. This isn't some rare occurrence. Studies show women in business miss out on bonuses 15% more than their male counterparts, even when their performance metrics are identical or better. The data doesn't lie, but apparently it doesn't matter much either. Sarah stared at her computer screen, looking at the Henderson contract signature page. Her relationship with this client had become the backbone of the company's quarterly projections. The executives mentioned Henderson in every investor call. The marketing team plastered Henderson's logo on their website homepage. Her work was everywhere, yet somehow she'd become invisible. The absurdity hit her during the company holiday party. While the CEO gave a speech about our incredible team effort in landing major clients, Sarah stood in the back, holding her plastic cup of cheap wine, wondering if she was living in some alternate reality. Had she imagined spending those weekends perfecting proposals? Did those client dinners happen in a parallel universe? Then there's the psychological impact of being overlooked. When your contributions get erased, your brain starts questioning everything. Did I actually do good work? Am I overestimating my value? The self-doubt creeps in like fog, making you second-guess decisions you know were brilliant. Well, Sarah's self-doubt phase didn't last long. The Henderson Group had specifically requested to work with her again. They'd sent thank you emails praising her attention to detail. The numbers spoke louder than any corporate gaslighting ever could. As January approached, Sarah made a mental note to herself. If the company couldn't see her value, maybe it was time to find people who could. Little did she know her promised bonus situation was about to get even messier. Days turned into weeks, and she kept refreshing her bank account like it was social media. Nothing. The promised bonus that should have appeared after landing that massive client remained as elusive as a parking spot at the mall during Christmas. Every morning brought the same disappointment. Check phone. Open banking app. Stare at the same balance. Wonder if maybe bonuses took longer to process than regular paychecks. Well, apparently they do when your company decides you don't deserve one. Her conversations with HR became a masterclass in corporate doublespeak. We're still reviewing the bonus structure, they'd say, with practiced smiles. Or the classic, these things take time to finalize. Time? She'd brought in $9 million, not organized the office holiday party. How much time does simple math require? The most infuriating part wasn't even the missing money. It was watching her coworkers celebrate their bonuses while she pretended everything was fine. Jake from marketing got his bonus for supporting the sales process. Supporting it, he made one PowerPoint slide. Sarah from operations received hers for maintaining client relationships. Maintaining them? She answered exactly 3 emails from the client, and 2 were about scheduling. But the woman who actually built the relationship, who spent late nights understanding the client's business, who turned a cold lead into a $9 million partnership, apparently she was still under review. Makes sense, right? About as much as a screen door on a submarine. Research shows that 33% of employees cite lack of recognition as their primary reason for leaving their jobs. When you work your tail off and watch others get credit for your efforts, something inside you starts to shift. The loyalty you once felt begins cracking like old paint. She found herself having increasingly awkward conversations with her boss about the situation. He'd nod sympathetically and promise to look into it, but his eyes would dart away like he was already planning his escape from the conversation. These promises started feeling as empty as campaign pledges during election season. The weird part is how invisible outstanding performance can become when it's inconvenient to acknowledge. Her client had specifically mentioned her by name in their thank you letter to the company. They'd praised her attention to detail, her responsiveness, and her deep understanding of their needs. Yet somehow, when bonus time arrived, her contributions had mysteriously evaporated from corporate memory. Then, there's the psychological toll of feeling expendable despite being indispensable. She'd wake up questioning her own value, wondering if maybe she'd imagined her role in the client's decision. But the emails were there, the meeting notes were clear, the client had literally said they chose the company because of her. As winter deepened, so did her realization that this wasn't just an administrative oversight or delayed paperwork. This was a pattern, a choice the company was making about her worth. Little did she know this bonus situation was just the beginning of a much larger problem that would soon make her question everything about her workplace. The funny thing about workplace red flags is how they start small, like when your emails suddenly feel like they're being sent into a black hole. Sarah noticed it first with routine client updates. Messages that used to get quick responses now sat there for days. Her inbox felt eerily quiet. But here's where it gets weird. The silence wasn't random. Her emails about budget approvals? Ignored. Questions about project timelines? Radio silence. Yet somehow, decisions about her $9 million client were happening without her. She'd walk into meetings to discover they'd already chosen new vendors or changed delivery schedules for the account she built from scratch. The office dynamic shifted too. Conversations would stop when she entered rooms. Not in an obvious way, but that awkward pause that screams, "We were just talking about something you can't know." Water cooler chats became shorter. Lunch invitations dried up. Sarah found herself eating alone more often, wondering when she'd become the outsider. Then, there's the classic corporate move that makes your stomach drop, the surprise meeting announcements, important strategy sessions scheduled without her input. Her calendar stayed mysteriously light, while everyone else seemed busier than ever. Meanwhile, decisions affecting her client relationship were being made by people who'd never even met the account executives on the other side. Well, the rumor mill started working overtime. Whispers about restructuring and optimizing costs floated through the office like a bad smell. Sarah caught fragments of conversations about cutting redundant positions and streamlining operations. The company was tightening its belt, and everyone was trying to figure out who'd get squeezed out first. Makes sense, right? When companies face pressure, they start looking for ways to save money. But what doesn't make sense is ignoring the person who brought in nearly 20% of their annual revenue. The math seemed backwards. Cut costs, but keep the moneymakers. Simple business logic. Yet Sarah's direct supervisor started CCing other team members on emails that used to be just between them. Her access to certain client files got temporarily restricted for security updates that never seemed to complete. Small changes that individually meant nothing, but together painted a clear picture. The breaking point came during a client strategy meeting. Sarah sat there while her colleagues discussed her account like she wasn't in the room. They referenced conversations she'd never been part of and mentioned client concerns she'd never heard about. Her own client was becoming foreign territory in her own company. Research shows that losing employee trust costs companies billions every year in turnover expenses. The irony? Most businesses create their own trust problems through exactly these kinds of mixed signals. They push out the people they should be protecting, then act surprised when those people take their relationships elsewhere. Sarah started asking herself uncomfortable questions. Was this normal corporate chaos or something more deliberate? Were they planning her exit or just bad at communication? Either way, the writing was on the wall, even if she didn't want to read it yet. But sometimes the most important revelations come from understanding what you're actually worth to people who appreciate your work. She kept a little notebook filled with details that would make most people roll their eyes. The client's CEO hated morning meetings before 10 a.m. Their CFO always ordered decaf coffee, never regular. The marketing director had 3 kids and loved talking about their soccer games. Weird? Maybe. But these tiny details became her secret weapon. While her coworkers treated clients like walking dollar signs, she treated them like actual human beings. Revolutionary concept, right? When the CEO mentioned his daughter's graduation during a casual phone call, she remembered to ask about it weeks later. When their quarterly reports showed stress in the numbers, she didn't wait for them to panic. She called first. But here's where it gets interesting. Her approach wasn't just nice, it was smart business. Research shows that 84% of clients stick with companies where they feel genuinely valued, not just serviced. And the weird part is, most businesses completely ignore this goldmine of loyalty sitting right in front of them. Her Friday afternoon check-ins became legendary, not pushy sales calls or boring status updates, real conversations. How's the new product launch treating you? Or did that supply chain issue get sorted out? These weren't scripted questions from some corporate playbook. She actually cared about the answers. Then there were the small gestures that cost nothing but meant everything. When their biggest competitor tried poaching their market share, she didn't just send a generic, "We're here for you" email. She researched the competitor's weaknesses, prepared a detailed comparison report, and delivered it with homemade cookies. Well, store-bought cookies. But who's counting? The thank you notes started arriving after every major project completion. Handwritten letters, not emails. The CEO once wrote, "Working with you feels like having a trusted advisor, not just another vendor." Her boss probably should have paid attention to language like that, but why would he notice something so obvious? Let's not forget the crisis management magic she pulled off. When their biggest product launch hit a snag 3 days before going live, most account managers would have hidden behind corporate policies and bureaucratic delays. She grabbed 2 team members, worked through the weekend, and personally delivered the solution on Sunday night. The client's relief was palpable. Her secret wasn't complicated or expensive. She simply remembered that behind every million-dollar contract sat real people with real problems, real deadlines, and real stress. Makes sense, right? Treat people well, and they'll want to keep working with you. Ignore them, and they'll find someone who won't. The client started requesting her specifically for important calls. They invited her to strategic planning meetings usually reserved for internal teams only. When industry conferences rolled around, they introduced her as our partner instead of our vendor. The relationship had evolved far beyond typical business transactions. Her company's leadership remained blissfully unaware of this growing bond. They saw the client as locked in, guaranteed revenue. What they didn't realize was how personal business relationships really are. And when trust gets broken on one side, it affects everything else. The foundation she'd built with this client was about to become more important than anyone imagined. Sometimes life hands you moments that change everything. For her, that moment came during the quarterly company meeting when the CEO walked up to the podium with a shiny award in his hands. "This year's Client Excellence Award goes to someone who really went above and beyond," he announced to the packed conference room. Her heart started beating faster. After all, she had landed the $9 million client. She had built that relationship from scratch. Mark Johnson from our sales team deserves this recognition for his outstanding client work this year. Mark Johnson, the guy who had maybe 3 conversations with her client, the same Mark who couldn't even remember the client's company name half the time. Well, there went her faith in workplace fairness. But wait, it gets better. Her boss stood up to give a speech about Mark's incredible dedication and relationship-building skills. 5 minutes of praise. 5 minutes about how Mark single-handedly secured one of our biggest accounts. Not once did her name come up. Not even a passing mention. She sat there watching her colleagues clap for work she had done. Makes sense, right? Take credit for someone else's sweat and sleepless nights. The weirdest part wasn't even the award itself. It was how comfortable everyone seemed with this version of events. Let's not forget the aftermath of that meeting. People came up to congratulate Mark. Her own teammates shook his hand. One person even asked Mark for advice on how to build those kinds of client relationships. She wanted to laugh, but honestly, she felt more like screaming. That night, she sat in her car in the company parking lot for 20 minutes, just thinking. The bonus situation was bad enough, but this felt different. This was her work, her relationship, her late nights and weekend calls. Someone else was getting praised for it while she remained invisible. And the weird part is, This kind of thing happens everywhere. Studies show that feeling undervalued ranks as the number one reason people quit their jobs. Not low pay, not bad hours, feeling like their contributions don't matter. She pulled out her phone and started scrolling through her contacts. Names of former colleagues who had moved to other companies, people who might actually value what she brought to the table. Her finger hovered over a few numbers. Then there's the reality check that hit her hardest. If they could steal credit for her biggest win, what would stop them from doing it again? Next quarter, next year, next big client, the pattern was clear now. Trust, once broken, doesn't just magically fix itself. Companies spend billions every year dealing with employee turnover, but they keep making the same mistakes. They keep overlooking the people who actually do the work. By the time she got home that night, her decision was made. She couldn't stay somewhere that treated her contributions like they didn't exist. But leaving wasn't going to be her only move. What happened next would change everything for both companies involved. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning. A rival company had been watching her work from the sidelines, and they wanted to talk. Not just any company either, one of those places where client relationships actually mattered to the people making decisions. She almost laughed when they mentioned the salary figure, 20% more than what she was making now. But here's the thing that really caught her attention. They had a bonus structure written down on paper. Clear numbers, clear deadlines, no vague promises or forgotten conversations. "We've seen how you handle relationships," the hiring manager told her during their coffee meeting. "That's exactly what we need here." Finally, someone who got it. Someone who understood that keeping clients happy wasn't just about sending invoices and hoping for the best. Then came the moment that changed everything. As they talked through the details of the position, a thought crept into her mind. What if her client didn't want to stay with a company that treated their key contact like yesterday's newspaper? The statistics were pretty clear on this one. About 60% of clients follow their main contact when that person switches companies. Makes sense, right? Business is personal, even when people pretend it isn't. Trust takes years to build and seconds to break. Her client had sent her thank you notes. They remembered her birthday. They called her directly when problems came up, not the main company line. That's not the kind of relationship that transfers easily to whoever gets assigned to the account next. So she did something bold. She put together a transition plan. Not for her old company, for her client. A detailed roadmap showing exactly how the switch would work if they wanted to make the move with her. New contact information, timeline for transferring files, even a breakdown of cost savings they might see. The weird part is how natural it felt. After months of being invisible at her current job, suddenly she was having conversations about growth opportunities and long-term partnerships. The rival company didn't just want her skills, they wanted her client relationships too. "Your reputation precedes you," they said during the final interview. When was the last time anyone at her current company had said something like that? But here's what really sealed the deal. The new company showed her their client retention numbers, 92% over the past 3 years. Compare that to her current workplace, where clients seem to vanish as quickly as employee bonuses. She signed the contract on a Friday afternoon, 2 weeks' notice, standard stuff, professional and clean. What her old company didn't know yet was that she'd already drafted an email to her $9 million client, a simple message explaining her decision and offering them a choice about their future. Monday morning was going to be very interesting because sometimes the best way to show your value is to take it somewhere else entirely. The hardest conversation of her career was about to happen. She sat across from her $9 million client, the one she'd nurtured for years. Her palms were sweaty. Her mouth felt dry, but she knew what had to be done. "I need to tell you something important," she began. No beating around the bush, no corporate speak, just honest truth between two people who'd built something together. She explained her situation carefully. The missed bonuses, the ignored contributions, the public award given to someone else for her work. The client listened without interrupting, nodding occasionally. Makes sense, right? This wasn't just business anymore. It was personal. Then came the moment that would change everything. "I'm moving to a new company," she said, "and I want you to know that whatever decision you make about your account, I'll respect it completely." The client didn't hesitate. "Where you go, we go." Well, that was easier than expected, But here's the thing, it shouldn't have been surprising. Studies show that 60% of clients follow their main contact when they switch companies. Relationships matter more than letterheads. Trust beats fancy office buildings every single time. The client's reasoning was simple. You've always taken care of us. You remember our deadlines, our preferences, even our office coffee orders. Funny how those small details suddenly seemed huge. Why would we stay with a company that doesn't value the person who values us? Within 48 hours, the termination notice landed on her old company's desk like a bomb. The language was polite but firm, professional but devastating. The client was moving their entire $9 million account effective immediately. Her former boss called her phone 17 times that day. 17, she didn't answer. What was there to discuss? They'd had months to show they valued her work. Instead, they chose to ignore it. The impact hit her old company like a freight train. Losing $9 million in annual revenue meant an 18% drop in their yearly income. Heads rolled, emergency meetings were called. Panic spread through the halls faster than office gossip about who was dating whom. But the weird part is how smoothly everything transitioned. Her new team was ready. The client felt welcomed from day one. No missed deadlines, no confused communications, just seamless service that proves something important. Good relationships can move mountains, or in this case, million-dollar accounts. Let's not forget the ripple effect this created. Other employees at her old company started asking uncomfortable questions. If someone this valuable could be overlooked, what did that mean for them? Trust, once broken, spreads like cracks in a windshield. Her new company celebrated the successful transition. They understood what her old employer had missed, that keeping great employees happy keeps great clients happy too. Simple math that somehow escaped an entire management team. The client grew their business by 23% in the first quarter under her new company's care. Success has a funny way of following people who actually earn it. But what happened next at her old company would shock everyone. The moment she walked out with that $9 million client, something strange started happening at her old company. Other employees began asking uncomfortable questions. Why did she leave? What weren't they seeing? The whispers in the break room got louder. Her former boss suddenly found himself in damage control mode. He had to explain to upper management how they lost their biggest account. The math was brutal. An 18% drop in annual revenue doesn't look good on anyone's performance review. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. 3 more employees quit within 2 months. They'd watched her get overlooked, then lose faith in leadership entirely. Word spreads fast in any office, and people started wondering if their own contributions were being noticed. The company's turnover costs began piling up fast. Meanwhile, at her new firm, something beautiful was happening. That $9 million client wasn't just staying put, they were growing. Within 6 months, their account expanded to $12 million. Why? Because when people feel valued and supported, they perform better. Makes sense, right? Her old company tried scrambling to fix things. They rolled out a shiny new employee recognition program. Monthly awards, quarterly bonuses, the whole package. The irony was almost funny. If they'd done this earlier, they'd still have their star performer and biggest client. But the damage was already done. Trust once broken takes years to rebuild. Other clients started noticing the instability. When your key people keep leaving, customers wonder what's really going on behind the scenes. Then there's the mentoring aspect nobody expected. She started getting calls from other professionals facing similar situations. Women who felt invisible despite delivering results. People whose contributions got credited to someone else. Her story became a roadmap for others stuck in toxic work environments. The statistics started making more sense now. Companies that genuinely value their employees don't just keep better talent, they attract better clients too. It's a cycle that feeds itself. Happy employees create happy customers, which creates more business, which should create happier employees. Her former colleagues would sometimes reach out asking how she'd found the courage to leave. The answer was simpler than they expected. She didn't need courage, she needed clarity. Once she realized her worth, staying became the riskier option. The client relationship kept strengthening at the new company. They referred 2 additional businesses within the first year. That $9 million account had essentially tripled the revenue it generated. Her new employer recognized this immediately. adjusting her compensation and responsibilities accordingly. Looking back, her old company's leadership probably learned something valuable. Recognizing talent isn't just about being nice, it's about protecting your bottom line. Every overlooked employee represents potential lost revenue walking out the door. Well, the lessons from her experience go way deeper than just workplace recognition. The real question becomes, how do you spot these invisible barriers before they cost you everything? Because what happened next revealed patterns that most people completely miss.